You're not weak, you're just slow. Today, we're going to be breaking down the commonly misunderstood dynamic effort method, commonly used in Westside and originating from the super training manuals from Soviet style training. And by the way, if you lift raw, you've probably been doing this wrong. Dynamic effort means submaximal weights moved at maximal speeds. So in my previous video, we went over max effort method and how that can be kind of used in your training to build top peak strength. The max effort method increases how much force you can produce. The dynamic effort method works hand in hand with the max effort because that increases the speed that you can produce said force. This idea came from Soviet sports scientist Yuri Verkhoshansky. In super training, explosive intent is described as the neural driver, okay? So that explosiveness and that neural drive, which we will get as a result of the explosive training, is what we're aiming for when we're actually executing the dynamic effort method. So what does that mean? Basically, we need to be ensuring that the lifter or you are moving the weight as fast as humanly possible when the time comes. We have to remember when we're executing the dynamic effort method, even lighter loads can produce maximum results if we're moving the weight with maximal intent. So it's really important that we do put as much effort as humanly possible into this method and these reps that we're performing. But here's what most lifters mess up. So now we know where the method originated from. We're now going to talk a little bit about Louis Simmons and Westside Barbell, who kind of took that method, refined it, changed it a little bit, and ultimately popularized it into what it is and the popularity it holds today. So if this is your first time hearing about Westside Barbell or Louis Simmons, basically it's a legendary gym from Ohio in America. And they built some absolute monsters. They broke so many world records and they still hold quite a few today. Now, when you watch the videos of these guys training on their dynamic effort days, they are not even taking fatigue into consideration. They're just moving the weight violently. There's just a violent aura in the gym and everything is being done with maximum intent. But here's the problem. That system was not built for raw lifters. So if you don't use a bench shirt, if you don't use, a squat suit, this is not for you exactly. You can't follow this plan to a T. Now, so many raw lifters learn about Westside and they want to immediately copy the program. I know that I did the exact same thing, and this is why I'm making this video, so I can warn you guys and stop you making the same mistake as a raw lifter. So for modern day raw lifters, here's what is the generally accepted working model for the dynamic effort method. A raw lifters program that is following almost a modified conjugate would typically look something like a Monday Wednesday, let's say, with max effort, and then Friday, Saturday using like a dynamic effort. And now that's just your typical Westside. There's no modification there. Where it differs is the max effort is going to look slightly different because we're going to have more volume, like we stated on the previous video talking about max effort. Now, when it comes to the dynamic effort, obviously the topic of this video, the traditional way of doing it is going to be like maybe 10 sets of 2, or you could do 8 or 12, or they maybe wave in between those 3 numbers. There's a lot of different ways to set it up, and that's without even getting into using accommodating resistance, which is bands and chains, and that's commonly used at Westside. Like when you watch all the old videos, they had about 17 bands on whatever the fuck they could get it on, right? That doesn't always necessarily garner the best return on investment for perhaps raw lifters and perhaps natural lifters, and definitely beginners or intermediates. For raw lifters, we're going to benefit a lot more from actually taking the tension, not trying to avoid it in specific positions as they're doing there. We have to bear in mind when we watch these videos, these are extremely high level athletes that are working on some very specific weak point that they have acquired over years and years and years of lifting. They're going to have a certain way of standing when they squat. They might have a specific, typically when we watch the old dynamic effort Westside barbell videos, a lot of the times they're going to be doing like very wide stance squats or even sumo deadlifts. You see them doing them sometimes on dynamic effort days. Now, raw lifters, you're going to typically want to stick to your compounds. Probably a similar movement to what you're doing on your max effort days if you are in your early stages still, so that you're getting a direct 2 times a week frequency to whatever movement we're trying to build upon. Now, with the rep and set ranges, like I touched on then, for the equipped lifters, typically it was something like high set count, low rep count. We can do the same thing as a raw lifter. There's nothing wrong with that, and a lot of people do that. Like a great powerlifter currently, Nicholas Dupree's, he's said on a video before that that's what he used in his early years. He did like a shitload of dynamic effort training, and if you watch him now, he's a very explosive lifter. So he himself said he benefited from that, and you can clearly see it on the platform. Now, where I would slightly change this for somebody newer to lifting is doing something like a 5x5. Okay, now treating this as more as a volume day rather than necessarily like a dynamic effort day. Okay, now with that said, this would be almost like a lighter 5x5, especially if the program already has some kind of like back offsets that are semi-intensive on the max effort days, because already then we've got a decent amount of volume. I don't want all of the reps of that lift to be slow across the week. So that's why this dynamic effort day lets us kind of go in with a little bit lighter percentages or lower percentages and move the weight a lot faster and have the focus on really good, clean execution, how it would be done in competition if that's what you're working towards, and ultimately still getting reps in, but just very efficient, fast reps. Now, like anything else, the dynamic effort method needs to be progressed, and this is where a lot of people will also kind of get caught up. So I'll just touch on that now. So it can be very confusing as a beginner when we're looking online, reading about the dynamic effort method, trying to figure out how to progress it. I know I spent quite a few weeks very confused on how you actually improve it. Should you add weight? Do you just add accommodating resistance? I wasn't sure 100% what to do. Like everything else in the gym, there's no one answer. So we can add accommodating resistance. You could use 1 week where there's no chain. Week 2, you add 1 chain. Week 3, you add 2 chain. As simple as that works. And then after that, you could switch it to band. After that, you could go back to straight weight or do something else. We can change movements. We can do a lot of things. But we can also, with beginner lifters, like I said, if we're following this kind of like more 5x5, almost volume-centric approach, we can definitely watch it track more linearly, so we don't have to incorporate as much accommodating resistance. When you are in the later stages of your lifting life and like training career, we're going to have to try and find weird ways to progress that, again, like work for your specific issues or your situation. So a lot of times using bands, if you're already moving a lot of weight, can be a good way on these dynamic effort days to like require more to put more stress on us, right? It's a harder movement if we added the bands or whatever, but the resistance curve, it might like accommodate nicely, or basically the bands are a lot easier than straight weight, aren't they? Okay, like if you put on 2 20-kilo tension bands compared to 2 20-kilo plates, obviously the bands are way easier because the tension isn't constantly on 20, depending on how we set the band up. So again, it all fucking depends here. But ultimately, we want to be, if you're a beginner, adding weight. We need to be seeing the weight go up. You can't trick yourself, and it becomes very easy to do this, bear in mind, with accommodating resistance. So don't fall into that trap. Hold off on using that until you're a little bit later into your journey. Now, if you've been doing it for 5-10 years, you've got like a free plate bench, you've deadlifted 200, squatted 200, then you can probably think about using a little bit of accommodating resistance here and there. Some heavy tension bands can be good. Like there's very good ways of setting it up, but that's a whole video in itself entirely. There's loads of benefits and maybe some downsides for beginners, like I just said. So if you're in your first 3-4 years of training, I'd say probably stick to mainly straight weight. You're not going to have to touch that stuff yet. So just normal weight. You don't need to add bands, chains. You just want to be seeing 2 kilo increment increases, okay, just every week. every week, and you just want to stack it and stack it and stack it and stack it. And that's what truly makes you somebody that's really, really strong. And we just need to make sure that we're progressively overloading the correct methods. So obviously you're watching this video now, you're going to implement the dynamic effort method, or you might already have it implemented in some way, shape or form in your training. And then we use that in conjunction with other methods correctly. We progressively overload them, and then not only are we getting stronger just because we're progressively overloading, like you would naturally, we're also getting a synergy between these methods, right? So the max effort method, like I said before, works hand in hand with the dynamic effort method. There's a synergy. They work together. So it is important we do the methods correctly, and we just need to remember when we're doing this dynamic effort method, even if it's the modified, raw, higher volume, higher time under tension type, where you might be doing closer to 4 or 5 reps opposed to 2 or 3, we still need to move the weight as fast as possible. And it's very hard to do if you overload it. So this is, the whole video is almost like a cautionary warning here, just to not go too heavy on your speed work. It is also supposed to be essentially a bit of a lighter day. If it's a volume day and you're a raw lifter, you might already be doing basically 2 heavy volume days. You don't want to be doing 2 heavy volume days for too long, because I'm telling you now, you'll probably start to feel it. It'll catch up a little bit. It's better to give yourself that time to recover from the heavyweight and vary it up with a lightweight, and use lightweight with maximum intent, like we talked about with the dynamic effort method. And that's why the synergy works really well. Okay, we're keeping wear and tear off of us, but we're maximizing the methods we have available to us. So obviously I went on a little bit of a tangent there, guys. I had kind of like a general like topic list I wanted to stick to here. But yeah, that basically covers as much as you need to know about the dynamic effort method for now. Obviously there's a lot more to it. It's a very, very big topic and subject, but that's like in a nutshell the dynamic effort method, and you should be able to take that and apply it to your own training. So if you've got any questions, please let me know in the comments. I'll get them answered straight away. If you need an app to track your training, I have designed one just for you myself. Okay, I've not had other people do this. I've done it. It's free. I don't want anything from you. It's on the App Store. It's called Forge Fit. I will link it in the description. Check it out. It's got workouts, programs, massive exercise library, everything you need. So download that, subscribe, like the video. Have a good day. See you guys again.